Hello my good people, welcome back to our YouTube channel that goes by the name Farm with Maxwell. So today I'm going to talk something about fodder. So when I'm talking about fodder, I'm going to show you one of the farms here in Nangili. Remember, I travel all the way from Isibania village to Nangili so that I can educate my audience about animals, and today I'm just going to say something about feeding. If you want to venture into animal keeping, before even you buy an animal, make sure you plant enough feed so that you can sustain this animal. Like the farmer that I've visited here in Nangili has planted varieties of fodder. I'll show you the super Napier, I'll show you the Lucerne, Desmodium, the Panica, and some other feed, some other fodder, so that we can really appreciate. Remember, so when I'm talking about this fodder, we can see some super Napier here on my back camera. So I'll be diving through specific fodder so that we can get learned about this fodder. Me traveling all the way from the village, I have to show you on how people are just making living here. Remember, I call myself the animal lover with no animal. I don't keep any animal because I don't have money to keep these animals, but I'm passionate about these animals, and I know one time I'll be having these animals. So if you're new to this YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe so that we can learn something about this animal. Then you turn on the notification bar so that you can be notified when I post a new video. Comment, share, and like, so that at least when you do that, this channel will grow to the fullest. Remember, I usually train people about animals. Today now I'm going to focus on the fodder of these animals. After focusing on that, then we can maybe dive to other topic. So I'm just here in a rural setup that I'm going to train us about what people plant so that their animal can thrive very well. Join me in this journey so that we can get learned, and I can advise you some of the things that you can plant in your farm so that you can sustain your animals. Remember, a farmer like this has planted a lot of super Napier, the likes of Lucerne. You know, Lucerne is just a leguminous plant, and sweet potato vine, much of protein. So that means he's trying the way he can so that to supplement that feed the dairy mill is going to buy from those shop, the commercial feeds. In now doing something that at least cutting the cost. Once you know how to cut this cost and you get milk production. Remember, I told you yesterday about how this farmer achieve that maximum milk production from these three animals. And you can see it is now showing itself the way it is. You can see where I'm standing from. There is a reason why I'm standing from here, because here is where they have just cut this super Napier recently, and you can see what is doing so that it can grow very fast. So I'm going to put the back camera so that we can dive in this shamba here, this garden, so we can learn something, guys. This is the back camera. So what you can see here in the camera, this is the super Napier, and I've talked several times about the super Napier. See the way this super Napier is germinating very well. In this super Napier, you can see this is animal manure. This is animal manure, so that's the reason why it is now growing this way. It is growing very well. You can see how it is growing. And I usually tell my people that this farmer usually sell these super Napier cuttings so that you can go plant. This is one of the hybrids, because he has one of the good breeds of super Napier grass. You can see the way manure has been used here very well to increase the soil fertility. So that means from that house we see the way we have the cow shed. Then this manure, it is just being used here to increase this production. In my last video, there is a video about super Napier. I spoke a lot of things about super Napier, where I stated that it was developed in Thailand. Then that's why it is being called a pak chong. And this hybrid is very sterile hybrid, meaning that it does not produce viable seeds, so that it is being propagated by cuttings. You won't find seeds here. So when I'm talking about cuttings, these are the cuttings that I'm talking about. So once you want to plant this super Napier, you have to take these cuttings like that look like sugar cane, so that you can plant them. Yeah. So another thing about the characteristic of these super Napier is about the growth. They usually grow around 8 to 15 feet tall, so that means it is very tall. Yeah. And something about the recycle cycle, that means when you cut, like this one has been cut, after around 45 to 60 days they can start then cutting. So that means maturity rate is very, very good. Yeah. And they have thick and juicy stem, so that means these animals enjoy eating these plants. They enjoy eating these plant. Yeah. And remember, they have broad leaves. Yeah, you can see the way these leaves are very broad, soft, palatable to animals. When I'm talking about palatable, so that this means that animal can chew these super Napier very well without a lot of difficulties. Yeah. In terms of nutritive value, I told you guys that it has a crude protein of 14 to 18%, dry matter of 20 to 25, then digestibility of around 60 to 65. So that means it is very highly digestible, and it has some things. It has some things that we call rich in calcium. Then apart from calcium, it has fibers, energy, making it ideal for dairy cows and goats. And when I talked about planting, you just take a cutting, then you plant. So that means that is the way how you can do what we call propagation. Yeah. When I'm talking about propagation, I demonstrated it practically, where I showed you how you cut. Yeah. You cut around 3. Yeah. You see like there. I just want to demonstrate with this one. Yeah. So that we can know what is propagation. Yeah. Like this one. This is what you plant. You cut maybe 3 stems. Yeah. You can see this is the stem. Yeah. This is one here. That is one here. One. This has two places. Yeah. So you can cut either 2 or 3. When you cut 3, so that means they can be propagating from the 3 sides. So that is one of the best way for propagation. Once you propagate and you plant, make sure that when you are doing what we call spacing, you just put what is called 2 feet between the row. So when I'm talking about the row, let me see where, yeah, let me see. You can see like this one. They were planted going upwards. Yeah. So that means this is one row here. This is one row. I'm just using my foot. This is a row. And this is a row. So when I'm talking about this distance, yeah, this one should be actually 2 feet, and between, actually within the row, this is between the row, then within the row. So that means this and this, yeah, should be around 1.5. When you do that, that means it is within the spacing that is being recommended. Then another thing is about what we call land preparation. You have to tilt your land very well, and you have to add manure, like you can see, so that it can add fertility. You can see the way it is being done. If you don't have manure, because it will be the first time you're doing this, just do what we call, just put a fertilizer that we call NPK. NPK has a lot of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus that will make these grasses thrive very well, guys. Yeah. Another thing is about irrigation. Where you when you come, maybe you grow this super Napier where there is no lots of water, so make sure that you do irrigation weekly during dry season. Yeah, you just irrigate weekly until when the dry season ends. Yeah. Another thing that I was to talk about is just about harvesting. Yeah, where first cut, once you plant, yeah, just cut around 75 to 90 days after planting. Then subsequent cutting around 45 to 60 days, they will have reached to the maturity. You can see like these ones. Yeah, you can see like these ones have reached good maturity. Another thing, you have to do what we call weeding, fertilizer top up, pest control. Yeah, you have to control pests, because we have some pests that like these super Napier. Yeah, so that is super Napier. So one benefit, yeah, the benefit of super Napier. One of the benefit of super Napier is about high yield, yeah, which means it increases availability throughout the year. Our thing is about cost effective, yeah, because it requires dependency, yeah, on commercial, it reduces the dependence on the commercial feeds. Another thing is about increasing milk yield, so that means it boosts animal productivity. Another thing about super Napier is just about soil protection. As you can see, it has protected from soil erosion. So it is just, you can see, it is just done what we call a good soil binder, and it has binded this soil very good. Yeah, you can see the way it has been binded very good. So we are going now to talk about another plant here that you can see here. It is, yeah, this is Desmodium. Yeah, and I usually encourage people to be planting Desmodium inside the Napier. When somebody cuts this Napier, you cut together with this Desmodium and feed it to the animal. Yeah, and I'll tell you the reason why I usually prefer that. And apart from that, the reason what contains in this Desmodium, so that I can dive deep, so that we can know how this Desmodium is, the characteristic and the entire thing. I'm going to talk about this Desmodium. You can see this is a green Desmodium. Sometimes we usually have a purple Desmodium, but I usually prefer this green one. So the reason, actually, these are a leguminous fodder crop, and it is being used for animal livestock feed. And here it has a lot of nitrogen fixation, yeah. And the reason why you have to plant with these, you can see like these farmers planted this Desmodium together with super Napier is because it to do what we call weed control. It push and pull, yeah. And actually it prevent soil erosion. Yeah, you can see the way it is now trailing here down, so that means it has good characteristics. So the growth habit, so that I'm going to talk about something about characteristic of these. So this means they are creeping or trailing. Yeah, when I'm talking about clipping or trailing, so that means they can clip on these super Napier. You can see like this one has reached here up, so that means it will be clipping itself to this super Napier, and they grow together. So it can get up to a height of 1 to 3 feet depending on the species and management. So like this one is a green one, which is very soft and palatable. And sometimes when you see its flower can be green, sometimes it can be, actually it can be purple or bluish and butterfly shaped. So that means it looks very good. Yeah, in terms of nutritional value, why I usually advise people to have these plant is just about crude protein. It has around 16 to 22. Digestibility is over 60%. Dry matter content is just moderate to this plant. Yeah, and when it comes to propagation, yeah, where you just acquire seeds so that you can plant the seeds, or root strip. Yeah, so that meant when I'm talking about root, about roots, you just remove it from the ground there, then you get the roots, then you try to propagate those roots. You can see here there are very many. There are many of them here, and actually seed rate can be 2 to 5 kg per acre, and that means planting time starts on the rain. Yeah, you have to plant these species of this fodder when we have a lot of rains, and you plant 30 centimeter between the rows where it can be intercropped. You can see like this one, yeah, 30 centimeter, but you can now see the way it has just done this thing. Yeah, in terms of management, you have to do what is called weeding when they are early. Yeah, once they are established like this, you cannot see any weed in between here. They have occupied all the weeds here, so that means you require weeding when you have just planted for the first time. Then you do what we call, you harvest when they are around 3 to 4 months. Then around 6 to 8 weeks, when you are cutting this super Napier, you cut together with this. In terms of benefit to the animal, actually the animal nutrition, that means they increase milk production and weight gain, and they do what we call soil health. Yeah? The way I said that they fixes nitrogen to the soil, so that means they make this soil very nitrogenous. So that means in terms of broadening, that's why even you can see this super Napier where they have been integrated, it does very well. Yeah, it does very well. Other thing is about push-pull system. So that means it repels stem borers and actually suppresses a lot of weeds. Yeah, and another thing is about the ground cover. You can see the way it has covered this ground to the maximum. So another thing that we are going to talk about is just about those ones. Yeah, those are we call them maize. Yeah, for silage making. Yeah, for ensiling silage. So let me just go to this maize so that we can see the way they are. For maize, you see this, the way this banana is very good. Yeah, you can see this maize here. This is maize, and I can see it is being cut. This super Napier, they have finished the other side there, so you can see they have now started cutting here. So that means they have matured very well. I was telling you how these things grow together with this super Napier. Yeah, you can see they have been cut. They have started cutting this Napier grass from this side here, the super Napier. So you can see they are being dried first before being fed to the animals so that they can wilt for some time. Yeah, the reason for wilting just to reduce the water content in this Napier, so to avoid bulkiness to the animal. Yeah. So I'm going now to dive through what we can see behind me here, what's called maize, and especially maize is just people use to make maize silage, so that we can really appreciate what is happening about maize. Let me just put this back camera, then I tell you something about this maize, what is happening about this maize after reaching maturity. And you can see these are maize plantation. The farmers decided to plant this maize, and one of the popular silage is from maize because it provides high energy, high digestibility forage that can be preserved and stored for longer periods. So some people usually ask me, why maize silage? I usually tell them that because of high yield, which is about 15 to 20 tons per hectare. That means when they are fresh, and weight measures that. I think it's about high energy, which is rich in fat and digestibility. Remember, when you're just making maize silage, it's not a must you add something like a maize jam because of the starch in it, so it is very cheap in making it. Another thing, it improves milk and grain and weight gain, so that means it is ideal for high producing animals in terms of production of milk. So another thing is about preservation. Yeah, it can be stored even up to 1 to 2 years down. Yeah, and I can just tell you some of the good variety of maize that you can do actually for silage, especially in Kenya and some tropical region, which is like the DH04, DH02, hybrid 513, we have hybrid 623, then Panar 69. A lot of people use that, yeah, to make actually to make for hay. Yeah, this because this variety has a high biomass, thick stem, big cobs, and long growth duration, which is around 90 to 120 days. So planting, a lot of people have been planting maize. So that means you just prepare your land, then you do what we call well tilled, and where there is fertile soil, you do good spacing. Then you do what we call fertilizing. Then you weed, so as to control weed. Yeah, like you can see here, this place has been weed, and you can see they were placing some fertilizer. You can see this is fertilizer here. So fertilizer has been placed to this one, and actually the optimal stage to harvest this maize silage is when it is a duff stage, when grains are soft but milky. So that means you just remove, then you see if it is milky, then you are good to go. Yeah, then after harvesting, let's say that is the stage of harvesting. When harvesting, you just chop and wilt. Yeah, they have just shown you how they are wilting the super Napier. So that means the same way. Yeah, then you add what we call molasses around, molasses and some silage inoculant. Yeah, so as to facilitate the ensiling process. Yeah, remember, fermentation is what we call silage making is all about fermentation. If you do fermentation well, and it is something very good. So that's all about so I'm going to dive to another tree here called Coriander. Let me show you how the Coriander looks like. Here it is. Yeah, you can see this farmer has planted Coriander. Here it is. And we have to remember that Coriander is a nitrogen fixing, the same as Desmodium. You can see all these fence at that end. This is Coriander. We have them here, and they originated from South America. Yeah, they can be used as animal feed. Let me just show you the way they have been planted. So this Coriander, the way you can see it, they look like trees, so they can be planted as animal feeds to improve soil fertility because of the nitrogen component in it. It controls aeration because you can see it is like a tree. You can see the way the rooting system is. So it is like a tree here. So that means it is able to control erosion Another thing is about firewood. Yeah, sometimes you can dry these tree, then you can use it as a firewood. Some people, so even bees, they like foraging to these plants so much. Yeah, they like foraging to these plants. And the characteristics about this good plant that we call coriander is because they grow very tall, yeah, up to 4 to 6 meters height, and growth rate is very faster. Yeah, you can see the way this is why bees like these coriander. See the way they are producing a very good flowers, yeah, for nectars. You can see even we have some pest here. They have come to attack it, yeah. You can see, yeah, we have some other flowers here. Look at the way these flowers are very attractive. This is why bees like these coriander. So I was talking about the growth rate is very faster, and it can be fully established around 6 to 9 months. Leaves are soft. You can see these leaves, yeah, very soft. These ones, these leaves are very soft, as you can see. So that means this goat can chew very well, yeah, and they are green and fun-like, yeah. You know what is firm, and that means when they are soft, they are easily palatable. I told you palatable is just the act of chewing, yeah, and their lifespan is very long, yeah. I've seen some people even raising these trees for around 5 to 15 years without exhausting this plant, yeah. Another thing about the nutritional value, has a good nutritional value of about 20-25, which means it is very excellent for ruminants. And you also have something that we call tannin content, yeah, which is moderate, limiting overfeeding, yeah. So that means when you decide to give these coriander, yeah, don't overfeed your animal because it will die, yeah, because of the tannin content. So it should be used in a balanced ration, yeah, and as a protein supplement alongside enriched fodder like the Napia or maize, silage. When you're feeding them, yeah, make sure you mix them with those type of we call them this type of fodder. Okay. Another thing about propagation, where you plant the seeds, then they germinate, yeah, they germinate to this size. So most of these seeds are being soaked in hot water, boiled and cooled for around 12 to 24 hours. So that means you just soften the buds, yeah, how the germination has to happen, yeah. Then you do what we call nursery. You raise them in a seedling, in maybe a polythene bag, yeah, for some months, around 2 to 3. Once they start growing like a tree, now you transplant after rain begins, and doing a very good spacing, yeah, of around 1 meter upside, because you see, like here, yeah, you have to do a very good spacing because it grows like a tree. So when you talk about management of this thing, you have to do what we call pruning, yeah. You have to cut this, because you see, like, this branch here has been cut. So that is what I call pruning and weeding, yeah. You can see very fresh from there, almost from the root. So you have to do good. You have to actually weed this thing. Then you do what we call, you have to put fertilizer, then harvest for feed, yeah. Yeah, these ones, yeah, you harvest them for feed. So most of the times, let me just give you a small guideline on how to harvest this thing, or on how to feed your animal with this coriander that you can see here behind me. What actually a lot of people do is that mix with Napier grass or maize stovers for energy. That is one of the ways you can use it. Another way, actually, you can use with the Desmodium. If more protein actually is needed, you mix it with that. And recommended feeding for cattle, just give around 3 to 5 kgs per day, yeah. That is fresh weight, yeah. You just cut and feed it to animal when it is fresh, yeah, which is very good. For sheep and goat, just give them 1 kg is enough for them, yeah. And avoid feeding alone because of these tannins, yeah. I usually I talked about tannins, yeah, what it contains. So if you put it directly to, you feed it directly to the animal, it will cause a lot of harm. And we have a lot of positive impact about these coriander here that you can see. They look like trees. So one of it is about it has high protein feed. So the protein levels in these coriander is very high. Another thing is about fertilizer. So that means they increase soil fertility rate. Another thing is about bee forage, because I've just seen you
shown you I've just shown you on how they can increase fertilizer. Honey, bees can you can use to make honey because of the way they look very pretty. Another thing is about erosion, and you can use it as firewood. That's all about coriander. Yeah, let me just go to another one here called Panica. Yeah, let me just show you Panica here. We have Panica here. Yeah, this is the Panica here. It looks almost like yeah, this is a Panica. It looks like Brucherium. Yeah, it looks like grass, but this is Panicum. You can see this section here. They have planted this Panicum. So the characteristics about this Panicum, some other people call them guinea grass. You can see the way they calling them guinea grass because on how the way they look like. Yeah, you can see how it has a certain color from there. So they grow up to a height of around 1.5 meters to 3 meters. Like you can see, these ones are very long. Yeah. They are 1 point something kilometers, 1 point something meters. So that means they grow. Actually, their growth habit. You can see they have just tufted and leafy. You can see the way they are looking. Very leafy, very tufted. So you can see the way they are coming from there. And actually, their leaves are long. You can see from there down to here. They are very long. And their roots go to the soil. You can see like this one. Their roots have just gone to the soil. I'm trying to knock this one out, but I can't manage knocking this one out. So that means the root system is deep rooted, which actually that means it is a good drought resistant crop. I think it's because they regrow very fast. You can see like this one was cut yesterday, but it has started to regerminate again. So that means the maturity rate is very faster after cutting. So that means if you cut like today, in the next 4 to 6 weeks, you have to cut it again because it grows very fast, my people. Yeah. And when you're planting this one, you just take seeds or some root split. Yeah. When I'm talking about root split, just pluck one of the root like here. Then you go plant it somewhere. So it will be actually to propagate by itself. And you have to do a proper spacing like now. You can see these ones were planted nearer. So that means it's making something like a forest. Let me just show you what is happening here, because you can see these are Panica. The entire this space, it is Panica. We have another Panica here that are now germinating here. Yeah, have Panica here, and sometimes you have to give them fertilizer. Yeah, especially the CN and the urea, because these you harvest the leaves. So that means you have to give them a lot of fertilizer, especially the CN, and you can harvest actually around 8 to 10 weeks after planting, and the subsequent cuttings you can do that. After every 4 to 6 weeks. And in terms of nutritive value, they have a crude protein of 8 to 14. And the dry matter of 20%. Digestibility is just moderate to high, and highly palatable to especially the young and leafy. Yeah? When you see the young like these ones, these ones are young and leafy, not as compared to where we have just come from there. Those ones are tall. You can see the way they are very tall. Yeah. So in feeding, you just feed and use. Yeah. Like a dairy cow, you can give it around 20 to 30 kgs per day. Beef cattle, you can give it 15 to 25 per day, and sometimes you can mix with silage. So you have to mix with silage sometimes, where how people do. And when it comes to benefit of this Panica, a lot of people say that it has higher biomass. So that means you see like this space from there to here, you can get a lot of tons here. That is really appreciable. Yeah, and it is very good for zero grazing system and improve soil structure. You can see like here, the soil has been compacted together very well, guys. Yeah, and it can be intercropped with other crops. Yeah, like let's say the Lucerne, yeah, the likes of those. Yeah, so that's all about. I'll be now diving to another topic that we call Lucerne. Yeah, I'll show you Lucerne. You can see Lucerne, it is here. This is what we call Lucerne here. These are the Lucerne, yeah. They have been planted here between. These are the Lucerne. You see these ones? This is the Lucerne that you usually hear about. Yeah, Lucerne looks like this way. Some people call these Lousan alfalfa. You can see here they are. Some people call them alfalfa, and their lifespan is around 4 to 6 years. And in terms of nutrients, it has a very high protein, crude protein, that is around 18 to 25. See the way they are appearing here. Just done what we call intercropping toward that direction. It has been intercropped toward that direction. You can see them inside here. Yeah, you can see them inside here, the panicum. These are the panicum. I told you, panicum, you can just do what we call intercropping. Yeah, so you can see they have been intercropped here, and they are doing very well. Yeah, and when you talk about maybe something like planting, yeah, you just direct seedlings. Yeah, you just plant as seeds, and then some people like seedling, then we just bring them here. And most of the people do what we call broadcasting, so as to evenly distribute and drill in maybe in a row when you want to plant them in a row. So you do what we call broadcasting. As you have seen here, in terms of management practice, proper weeding. You can see we don't have weeds here, and you should do what we call watering, fertilization, and actually what is called harvesting, yeah, which can be harvested around 3 to 4 months. Yeah, it stays in the chamber for around 3 to 4 months, then harvested. While feeding, you just have to put a little of it. Do not feed in excessive alone. You have to mix with something like super Napier, so that to prevent bloating. Yeah, this is one of the sources of bloating, so you have to avoid that. So I'm now going to something like we call okay, we won't see the silage, but it has been ensiled. I was just telling you something of about the fodder. I'm just taking you so that you can see something like a silage. You can see where we have a heaped place. That is silage which is there. This is silage. Silage has been conserved here. And one reason why I usually encourage people to be having silage is this. You see, you can keep this silage for a longer time in your farm as possible. Yeah, very long time. Because this is one way of storage, so that means fermentation and the entire thing takes place here. And they have started using this silage from this side. I want to show you where they have started using this silage, so that we can really appreciate what is happening here. Yeah, they are using this silage from here. You just open a little of it, then you close. You can see here they have started using it here, so that means they open and close, so that to enhance the fermentation. So fermentation has to keep on going inside here. Yeah, then we have here much of Lucerne, much of these are Desmodium. Yeah, very many here. This is a forest of Desmodium. Yeah? You having learned all these things, I think it should be much appreciable all the way to here, so that we can learn something. Then we have here sweet potato vines. These are sweet potato vines. They are being planted now, so as to be fed to these animals. So these are just supplementation to cater for proteins, to cater for a lot of things. Yeah, these are sweet potato vines. They are being planted here, and I really appreciate, because he's doing what we call a fantastic job. And I really appreciate, because I've seen a lot of plants that I know, and at least I've shown my audience a lot of them, so that we can really appreciate. That's it for now. Goodbye for now. Till we meet again, remember to subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification bar, so that when I post any video, we keep on learning. Goodbye for now. Bye bye.